Good evening, Mercy Rodriguez, week 2, mpa540. Today we will be discussing the multimedia discussion board on FSOs and state and local job postings. So today, just a little overview. We will be going over part 1, FSOs, and what position we chose to research, which I chose management officer. I will tell you how the application process is handled and how to prepare for it, the effectiveness of the videos that we watched today for week 2, and then any recommendations we have for the State Department on their recruitment. Part 2, we will be looking at state and local job postings, where we located the job postings and why we chose them, and then identify types from Chapter 3, Exhibit 3.3. We're going to be looking at similarities and differences between the job postings and then a quick summary. So let's get into it. For my foreign service officer, I chose the management officer career track. So we're going to look at the process of applying for a foreign service officer position as a management officer with the U.S. State Department. This application process is structured and multi-stage. It begins with registration for the FSO officer test, also known as the FSOT. Candidates, once they pass the FSOT, their personal narratives and qualifications are evaluated by a panel, and those who pass are invited to take an oral assessment followed by security and medical clearances. Successful candidates will then undergo a final suitable review and are placed on a hiring register. They're ranked. So this process evaluates not only a candidate's education and knowledge, but also their leadership ability, management, and global awareness. So how they prepare for a management officer role, it requires a very strategic and well-rounded approach. The candidate should study for the FSOT test, which includes subjects like U.S. government history, economics, writing skills, English. Any experience they have in logistics or budgeting or HR is also very beneficial for these positions. Some soft skills are critical for this position, which are emotional intelligence, leadership abilities, developing intercultural communication. Some of those can be very essential. And then based on chapters 3 and 4 of our textbook, it's important to align preparation with the competencies expected of ethical and emotionally intelligent public leaders. So practicing for the oral exams and understanding real world crisis management. It also will give these candidates like a strong advantage. Real world crisis management scenarios. It will give you a little bit of an edge up compared to the other candidates. So the effectiveness of the videos that we reviewed this week, I thought they needed to include more actionable steps on how to apply. None of them really talked about that. Maybe they could emphasize mentorship because they didn't hit that either. And they didn't describe how to pursue the consular track. So they didn't really go into detail at all. They didn't mention any training or support that the new officers receive, which I'm sure they do. And so maybe somehow they can kind of add that. Overall, it was nice to hear about their experiences, where they travel, what they do, but I still think it needed some more steps on how to. My recommendations to the State Department would be to further enhance recruitment and diversity. They could probably implement some outreach efforts to unrepresented communities. So maybe historically Black colleges and Hispanic institutions, possibly tribal colleges if they did more outreach with them. Second, I think they could focus more on competency-based recruitment that values soft skills, which I mentioned earlier, emotional intelligence, etc. Thirdly, I think they could one way that they could ensure that the branding and outreach efforts reflect an inclusive image of the public service. So possibly just more outreach efforts. And then lastly, maybe diversifying assessment panels and creating mentorship pipelines could help reduce bias and improve equity in the selection process, and maybe just making sure that that selection process is unbiased. I think these changes could really build a stronger workforce for the Foreign Service officers, and maybe make sure that it truly does reflect the diversity and the values of our nation. So part two of our assessment focused on reviewing and analyzing state and local government job postings and then using Exhibit 3.3 from our textbook as a framework. So I selected two public sector roles, one at the state level and one at the local, both related to the field of HR and public safety. I located the jobs on government job comms and Cal Careers. I felt like this platform aggregated listings from a whole bunch of various and local agencies. And for the state level position, I selected this one in front of you, the Human Resource Officer position with the Office of the Legislative Council in Sacramento. So I just felt that this posting was crucial just currently with where our nation is with HR. I think it's really, really important that we have good HR employees. And then for the local level position, I selected the assistant supervising payroll clerk and the fire emergency role with the LA County. I chose these because they are highly relevant to HR administration because one directly actually supports emergency response. And I think that shows how critical HR functions can be, especially now in crisis situations. Some of the elements of the job announcements for both of these, they both clearly identified the job title, salary information, detailed duties and responsibilities. They also specified minimum qualifications. They wanted managerial HR experience. They described the work schedule. They had they described how the work schedule could have some job flexibility for nights and weekends. Each posting had step-by-step application instructions and full contact details for the HR departments, and the postings also stressed their compliance with the EEO opportunity laws, fair chance hiring, and accessibility accommodations. As far as comparison, here is a local job posting for the assistant supervising payroll clerk with the fire department. Both job announcements were comprehensive. There were some differences. The state level position was more formal. It required a very detailed application, including an STD 678 form, a resume. They wanted all their statement of qualifications, while the local position was posted under emergency appointment rules due to the county's recent disaster declaration. So they both reflected just diversity and equity. And I think the comparison showed how while public sector job postings is consistent, their structure, the tone and urgency can vary depending on the agency's like just current needs, actually. And even though I couldn't include the whole job listing, this is just a summary of both of them. So in summary, I just wanted to summarize that in part one, we were asked to explore a career as an FSO with the U.S. Census Department. And as a management or a political career track, and I chose the management, and I did describe, I felt in detail why it appealed to me and all the steps with the State Department for applying. Part two, we focused on state and local job postings and reviewing why we chose them and how they aligned with our Exhibit 3.3 from our textbook. I did explain these postings and why I chose them and the similarities and the differences. I just felt that overall, this exercise really helped me understand and hopefully you public sector hiring processes and at the various different multiple levels of government. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed it.